Come get some. Oh. Hello there. Sean the Extra Guy here. Well, as you can see, I'm rather excited for what's about to begin today. Duke Nukem 64 and all. But first, a little backstory.
Now imagine this, you're a kid in the late 90s, you've got a Nintendo 64, you played your Mario and Zelda, you played Mario Kart, Star Fox, Cruisin' USA, you even played your favourite Star Wars game, Shadows of the Empire. That bloody impossible piece of shit! Now your only experience with first-person shooters at this stage is GoldenEye, and maybe Turok because it had a dinosaur on the front cover before you rented it from the video shop. Anyway, you don't know who Duke Nukem is, and you've certainly never heard about Duke Nukem 3D either. And then one day, your older brother comes home and he's bought this game to play. On the cover, it's got a cool, buffed-up dude with a blonde flat top and sunnies, wielding big-ass guns and shooting aliens. The only other time you've seen this much muscled-up madness is when you played WCW NWO Revenge.
That was me, probably around 1998, 99. I can't remember exactly when we got this game, but I remember playing it a lot when I was a kid. And I wasn't any good at it. I'd always beg my big brother to play co-op with me, and I'm sure he rolled his eyes at almost every time. I mean, look, annoying little brother, like I was like 4 or 5 at the time. He's 10 years older than me, so he would have been, 14, 15? And the thing is, we never actually completed it. We always got up to the Quake Zone level and just ended it there. But yeah, this was a really special game to me. It was also the most violent game I'd ever played in my life up until that point.
For those of you who aren't in the know of who Duke Nukem is, or it's been a while, I don't blame you. His last outing left a little to be desired, to say the least. I mean, look, I like Duke Nukem Forever, and I know it's not the most amazing game in the world, but I just don't think it deserves some of the hate it gets. However, I understand why a lot of people, even some Duke Nukem fans, wanted something more from a follow-up to Duke Nukem 3D. But if you need a memory jolt, or you're thinking, Duke Nukem? That's one of the villains on Captain Planet, right? No. No, it's not. Well, I mean, there is a Duke Nukem on Captain Planet, but who the fuck thinks of this?
My name is Duke Nukem. I'm a nuclear shark. I'm hotter than Elvis, and I glow in the dark. Nothing.
When you say the name Duke Nukem. Yep, no one. Anyone else? Yeah. Didn't think so. He's basically a combination of action heroes from various movies in the 80s and early 90s, and let's just say he's very enthusiastic when it comes to women and one-liners. Unlike other FPS games from the time Duke Nukem was released, the only things you heard from your player character was usually just aggressive grunting sounds.
Today, we're going to be playing the Nintendo 64 port of Duke Nukem 3D, simply titled Duke Nukem 64, which was a common occurrence with Nintendo 64 games. You don't have a subtitle or anything, no, just have 64 at the end and call it a day. But after many years of wondering if it's still any good and wondering if I could complete it, today we're going to find that out. Oh, and before I forget, the memory pack. Because you're going to need it if you want to save your progress. Oh, and for that extra level of added immersion, rumble pack. Let's rock.
Duke Nukem 64 punches first impressions right in the balls. The title screen smashes into action, and the best damn 30-second loop of the Duke Nukem theme graces your ears.
Let's rock. Time to play with myself.
And so, we start a new game. And exclusive to Duke 64, we get a bit of story telling us what happened in Duke Nukem 1 and 2. But then all of a sudden, alien bastards shoot down Duke's ride. And we are dropped into the first level.
Damn, those alien scum are gonna pay for shooting up my ride.
Now, if you're not familiar with Duke Nukem 64, or Duke Nukem 3D for that matter, let me give you a quick crash course.
Step 1. Point gun. Shoot.
Hail the king, baby.
Alright, I'll be a bit more specific than that. Kill all alien bastards. Find weapons so that you can shoot tougher alien bastards. Explore and find keycards. Get to the end of the level, wherever that may be, and whichever way you can, while maybe finding a few secrets and things to interact with along the way. Most levels aren't linear at all, so don't expect to be babied through a corridor from point A to point B. With the first level alone, there are several ways you can approach getting to the end. Do you go through it linearly by fighting your way to the fire exit of the theater, fighting your way up to the projection box, collecting the keycard, going to the arcade with the door requiring the keycard, kill some pig cops, and then end the level? Or do you find the grenade launcher, blow up the front entrance, pick up the shotgun in the room behind the counter, grab the hidden armor, then go through the toilet, busting slugs and every alien bitch you see, including the one on the toilet. Use the toilet yourself even.
Ah, that's better.
Go through the vents, save the babe, and surprise the fuck out of the aliens in the projection box. Blow up the screen, get the jetpack, and fly to the end of the level. Maybe even find a few more secrets if you want to. It's really your choice what you want to do. Now, of course, I know this stage like the back of my hand. Oh, hey, that's new. I know where the exit is, I know where the weapons and secrets are, I know where the keycard is. But if you've never played Duke Nukem before, you'll be exploring the level, searching for the keycard. You'll find weapons, and you might even find a secret or two in the process. And it's pretty much like this for all the levels in the game, with some exceptions like boss levels and even a few quote-unquote linear levels, but even then, there's a lot of pathways you can take within them. This ain't your typical dude bro military shooter. It's your mid-90s cool motherfucker shooter. Now that you're up to scratch, it's time we delve into Duke Nukem 64. But I'm not going to do my usual format of going through the entire game and riffing on everything like I've done for the past 3 games. Otherwise, the video will end up being an hour long, or even more than that. So, I want to keep this video relatively short. To start off, I can't forget to mention the obvious elephant in the room, the censorship of the game, which was a common occurrence for Nintendo back in these days. Because blood and guts exploding, seeing the spaghetti-like entrails after a body is crushed by a door, and the severed corpses of women hanging from the ceiling are totally fine. But show a bit of TNA?
Shake it, baby.
We can't have that, mate. And this game is actually a little gorier than the original. There seems to be more blood effects on enemies now, the explosions are 3-dimensional, and you can shoot dead alien bodies and make it rain blood. It's a subtle change, but it's an improvement over the original. For some fucking reason, the pools of blood are now brown. I always thought the enemies shat themselves in a storm of diarrhea after they died. I mean, just look! Look at it! That looks like slimy shit!
Some of the obvious changes are the removal of the more sexual content from Duke 3D. And it's pretty much in the levels that you can expect too.
The first level now resembles a normal movie theater. The second level has been changed entirely, including the name. Instead of an adult video shop, it's a gun store. The bar has been replaced with the kitchen for the Duke Burger edition in the level, and the strip club has been replaced with the loading zone for the Duke Burger. Which brings us to the next change from Duke Nukem 3D, the level design. While still resembling the layout of the original levels, there are some significant changes, including new secrets which will make you think, was this always here? These changes most of the time aren't even related to censorship and are just improvements and additions on the original levels. There are also no episodes, it's just one long campaign of 30 levels starting from Hollywood Holocaust and ending with the Cyclone Emperor in the stadium, which has been fully modelled in polygonal 3D by the way. There are also 2 new secret levels that were adapted into Duke 64, and these 2 levels were featured in the Plutonium Pack for Duke 3D. There's Duke Burger, which can be found in Gun Crazy when you jump on a box before you reach the end, and then there's Area 51, which can be found on the movie set level before the end. I think these are nice additions to the game. I mean, they couldn't fit all the stages from the Plutonium Pack due to the size restrictions, but at least they gave us something. Speaking about the Plutonium Pack, there's also the Alien Beast enemy featured in a lot of levels where it wasn't in Duke Nukem 3D. Another addition that just adds to the uniqueness of this version of the game. Not the most annoying enemy in the game, at least I don't think so. No, that title goes to the fucking sentry drones. Irritating flying fuckers. These bastard things piss me right the hell off. You'll know when they're around because you can hear them in their eerie fucking growl and hovering noise. But sometimes you can't fucking see them. I especially hate it when they're waiting behind a door, and as soon as you open it, you only have a split second until you realise this wank of a thing is charging at you ready to explode. They're not even satisfying to kill, unlike other enemies in this game. They also spawn in when you least expect them to, just because they love making your life absolutely fucking pleasant. Fuck! The most satisfying thing, and something I discovered, depending on where you are and if you're on the other side of a door, they'll explode, and you'll get the rare occasion when a bunch of them are together and they'll end up killing all their mates. Fuckers. Anyway, one of the more welcome changes, at least for me, is the ability to save babes instead of just listening to them say, "Kill me." Which I still think to this day is really disturbing. Maybe it was because I was so used to saving the women in Duke 64, or maybe it's just some base instinct. I don't know. Also, they can't be killed, which is unrealistic, but, you know, I can't say that I'm unhappy about that either. Also, the babes that you saved add up at the level end screen, and it tells you how many you saved and how many you left.
becomes sort of like a collectathon in a way, with the secret areas to find the enemies to kill. These poor pixelated women are reduced to collectibles. If you want the very definition of objectification, well, here it is. This is in a Duke Nukem game, mind you.
Duke Nukem 64 also has a lot more differences than just level design and graphics changes. Now, apart from the handgun, the shotgun, the shrinker expander, the laser trip mine, and the pipe bomb, which only look different, the other weapons are replaced with entirely different ones. First off, you got the submachine guns, which replaces the chain gun cannon, and they're mechanically different to it in a lot of ways. They look cool and are great when dealing with a bunch of enemies close by, but instead of just one point where the bullets would go, you've got sort of an offset of 2 points, which sadly really hampers their long-range effectiveness. You've got the grenade launcher, which replaces the RPG. It sort of acts similar to the pipe bombs, only its range is longer and it runs on a timer, and when it comes into contact with an enemy, it explodes. Actually, to compare it, it's pretty much like the grenade launcher from Quake. Similar concept, and it also works the same mechanically.
I ain't afraid of no Quake.
Yep, well, you may not be afraid, Duke, but you certainly stole their fucking weapon. I actually like this weapon. It's great when you can use it effectively, because you can really screw your enemies over by calculating the laws of physics and hoping that you fire it at the right angle so that it lands next to an enemy, and that it doesn't come rolling back towards you instead. Oh shit! Also, what the hell am I firing from this grenade launcher? These don't look like grenades at all. They look like soda cans, like crude homemade explosives or some shit. Next is the plasma cannon, which replaces the freeze thrower, and this weapon is kind of like the BFG from Doom in a way. When fired rapidly, it's okay, it does a bit of damage to enemies, but not a lot. But its real special gift is when you charge it up and let it get to its maximum potential, and it'll completely obliterate most enemies into the plains of oblivion. As long as you aim it correctly, you can potentially Philadelphia Project an entire room of enemies. It even works on bigger opponents like the Battlelord Sentry if they're low on health. The last is the missile launcher, which replaces the Devastator, and it pretty much acts the same as the RPG that was replaced by the grenade launcher, except it fires a little slower. But on the flip side, you've got a secondary ammo type that you can pick up, which are heat-seeking rounds, and they will either screw you over or help you immensely, because they target any and all enemies within range, even when you're clearly not aiming at a particular enemy. Speaking of which, there's also secondary ammo types for the pistol and the shotgun. The pistol gets dum-dum rounds, which pack a more powerful punch than the regular rounds, same amount of damage as the shotgun would do, except the same rate of fire as your pistol. And last, but certainly not least, the shotgun, which has explosive rounds. And I think they're the most fun. When you find them, stand back, because it's best used at long range. But just the sound of blood and guts exploding when you shoot your enemies with this thing is just so satisfying.
You in hell.
My favorite.
Another noticeable change from Duke 3D is, funnily enough, Duke Nukem's voice lines. John St. John re-recorded his lines for Duke Nukem 64, and mostly to get rid of the more offensive lines, he says, or at least lines not safe for TV, I suppose. But they actually sound clearer and have a more varied tone to them compared to the monotonal sounding ones in Duke 3D.
I should have known those alien maggots booby-trapped the sub. I should have known those alien maggots booby-trapped the sub. Holy cow. Holy cow. Groovy. Groovy. Ooh, I needed that. Ooh, I needed that. It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum. It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum. Don't have time to play with myself. Don't have time to play with myself.
Of course, the same references to pop culture and Duke's crude humour is still present. Instead of language you'd hear on late-night naughty R-rated TV, you know the ones I'm talking about, it's more like late-evening WWF TV. It still retains a bit of swearing, but just no shit and F-words.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
Now, one of the biggest complaints I have about this game is the fact that you can't save the game while in a level. Which means if you die at any point in the level, it's right back to the start. If you're nearly at the end and you're low on health, and you fuck up once or an enemy kills you unexpectedly, salt's gonna be on the menu for your meal tonight. Trust me, for some of the later levels, it gets fucking hard, and the enemies get fucking relentless. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't do mid-level saves. You could save your game midway through a level in the PlayStation port of Duke Nukem 3D. Maybe it's because the memory pack doesn't hold a lot of data in the first place, or maybe it's just the limitations of the Nintendo 64. Fitting a heap of content from Duke 3D into an N64 cartridge couldn't have been easy. And speaking of which, there is something glaringly obvious missing with this version: the music. Which during the game, there's none whatsoever. It's sad because that opening Duke Nukem theme has stayed with me since I first played it all those years ago. I can only imagine what the rendition of the level music would have sounded like if only they could have fit them on the cartridge. This is the same problem I had with Perfect Dark on Game Boy Color. There's just something weird about not having music playing when there's gunslinging action involved, especially when you're going to town on some extraterrestrial's candy ass.
So, put on your favourite metal music, some awesome Ass King guitar music, maybe an audiobook or a podcast, maybe even your favourite streamers on Twitch. Regardless, just sit back, relax, and hail to the king, baby.
That's my line, dick for brains.
Dude, all this time, since the start of the video, you haven't said not a word. I haven't heard anything from you. And then all of a sudden you do... Wait, hang on. I'm talking to a toy again, aren't I?
Shithead.
Another complaint of mine is the controls. I don't know why, but I seem to remember not having problems when I was a kid. Maybe I just didn't care. I don't know. Part of the problem could be the design of the Nintendo 64 controller, but I don't have the same amount of trouble with GoldenEye, Doom 64, or Perfect Dark. I suppose it's the design of Duke Nukem itself. Duke Nukem 3D was designed as a 3D game with a lot of verticality in mind. Being able to jump, crouch, fly, swim, use items and change weapons on the fly, and interact with things in the game world like doors, buttons, pool tables, and toilets, as well as aim at enemies above and below you. This was all very new to first-person shooters in the mid to late 90s. I suppose trying to fit all of that in a controller with just one analog stick, a D-pad, two main buttons, a trigger, two bumpers, and a set of C buttons, it's kind of hard to work with that type of real estate. I find that the default controls of the C buttons to strafe and the analog stick to look around works out best for me. All the others were just a little too finicky. In a way, the C buttons work like your WASD on the keyboard, and then the analog stick is like your mouse. If your mouse and keyboard was replaced with a Krogan dick, a Predator's butthole, and Klingon tits. The method I developed for holding the controller is creative. I mean, considering there's like 10,000 fucking ways of holding the Nintendo 64 controller, this isn't too out of the ordinary, actually. Now, the stage I got up to when I was a kid was always Quake Zone. For whatever reason, I just couldn't figure out where to go. It wasn't anything like I was used to with 007. I pretty much got to this bit and gave up, and I couldn't return to it because at the time, I didn't have a memory pack. But this stage is such a cakewalk. I seriously don't know how I was that stupid when I was a kid. It's also the last stage before the final boss of the episode, which is the big battle lord Sentry. He's easy enough to beat. I have no trouble with him. His most devastating attack is the fucking minigun he uses. You'll lose the most health with that attack. Luckily, there's a lot of health pickups and ammunition. Keep hitting him with explosives and he'll fall down like a sack of shit. And so, we go to the next level, which would be the next episode in Duke 3D. And of course, it's in...
Space!
Let's rock. Ow, that's gotta hurt.
Froze. It fucking froze. What? I've never had my Nintendo 64 freeze on me. What kind of fucking wizardry is this?
Damn it. Who wants some? Game over.
Oh my god. I did it. I actually beat it. I mean, after all these years, you know, like wondering if I could do it, wondering what it would be like, you know, I finally did it. I'm speechless. Honestly. Just... Apart from all the negatives that I mentioned before, right? This is still an excellent game. And it's responsible for introducing me to Duke Nukem. And you know, eventually, years later, I did play Duke Nukem 3D on PC, and I discovered it. And it's still to this day one of my favourite FPS games of all time. Well, now that we've got the single player portion out of the way, it's time we talk about one of the more unique features of the Nintendo 64 version, the multiplayer.
You can't have a Nintendo 64 game like this and not have split-screen multiplayer. Not only does it have your traditional 4-player split-screen, you've also got co-op, like I mentioned at the start. You can actually go through the entire game with your mate, or like I did when I was a kid, your big brother. But you know, nothing really beats that 4-player split-screen action that we all adore from games like this. Of course, no one wanted to play this game with me when I was a kid. They all wanted to play GoldenEye, and then later on it was Halo on the Xbox. I tried to make them play this, but it was weird to them. They weren't used to it, they didn't like the controls. So it was up to me to enjoy Duke Match by myself. And luckily, this game has the option to play with bots. But whether you actually find enjoyment out of it depends on your level of enjoyment for stupidity. Because these Duke bots don't know how to human. And they don't know how to human very well at all.
Where is it? Where is it?
I think the reason they failed a lot of the time is because the levels were not designed for the bots in the first place. My theory is, the bots were designed to try and find a target, and if obstacles were in the way, try to find the door blocking them, even if there was no door. So hearing a couple of Duke bots going is not uncommon. I still think it's hilarious when Duke keeps saying,
Where is it? Where is it?
and then still continue to look for a door that isn't there. Also, this stage, Fahrenheit, I played a lot because not only was it a level I liked, you could also stay on the rooftop here and snipe the Duke bots with the explosive shotgun rounds. That and this big bin thingy just at the beginning of the level would also confuse the bots, and they didn't know how to handle it. When they jumped in, they couldn't get out for whatever reason. They'll continue to fire their weapon until they run out of ammo and start using their mighty boot. And when you have all of the Duke bots around the bin, hilarity ensues. Especially when you can glitch the bin out, which for some reason, if you stay on the edge, you can actually make the thing morph into the wall and also crush the poor Duke bot inside. And it can crush you and the Duke bots even when it's normal, so watch out. It's such an odd glitch. It also causes weird graphical issues when you jump into the bin when you've managed to move it to where it's not supposed to be. I don't know, it's weird. Now, in all honesty, the Duke bots can be a challenge when they're not acting like a bunch of retards. You can also set their difficulty, and the funniest results seem to come from Piece of Cake, which I think that's the difficulty I played when I was a kid. Higher difficulties won't make too much of a difference to their brains, even when you set the difficulty to damn I'm good. They still won't understand the intricacies of level design and just continue to be dumbass bots. And that's all I have to say about Duke Nukem 64. I highly recommend if you have a Nintendo 64 that you grab a copy to play it for yourself, and if you're a Duke fan, you owe it to yourself to try this game out. The sheer insanity of the weapons alone are worth the hassle. You can also download the Duke 64 mod for Duke Nukem 3D on PC, and it's a pretty faithful recreation of the N64 game in the build engine, with a few minor differences. For example, the grenade launcher, I don't know what it is, it kind of feels off, you know? The physics are just not the same as the N64 version. I could be wrong, but it could just be me. That's entirely a possibility. And sometimes when you fire a grenade at an enemy, it doesn't explode on impact. I don't know, it's weird. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I'm entirely sure it could be fixed easily, but seeing as this mod hasn't been updated since April 2014 as of the posting of this video, yeah, I don't think there's going to be a patch anytime soon. I would love to be proven wrong though.
So yeah. Anyway, stay safe and have enough.
Bonjour, monsieur. I have a package for you. Thank you, s'il vous plaît. Ah oui, merci beaucoup. Au revoir, monsieur.
Why was it French?
Let's open it then. I guess we're doing Dog's Life next then.
Holy shit, he actually finished the damn video. Took his fucking time too. I suppose playing The Sims, jerking off to anime waifus, and lazing around playing his Nintendo Switch really took it out, the poor son of a bitch. I know I can't talk. My game took 13 fucking years to make. But I'm Duke Nukem and I'll take all the time I need to kill alien bastards and save hot babes. Now he's asked me to do all the end card bullshit, but I'm doing it my way. So, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, or I'll kick your ass. If you dislike the video, I'll rip your head off and shit down your neck. So like the video, and share it around like herpes, unless you want me to get medieval on your ass. And as always, stay safe, and have a nice fucking day.